Good afternoon. How are you today? Oh, it's still cool, around 60s, and temperature will drop in the evening. I don't know if the sky is clear where you are, but the cooler sky seems to bring out the stars even when the moon is out. And there's some fabulous visions. Orion has been quite visible in the northwest, the northeast sky. And I always like looking at Betelgeuse, which is up in the shoulder of Orion, and you can see the pinkish color of the star. So anyhow, that's a kick. So this is part of the Jefferson weather report, and Thomas, if he were here, would tell us it's getting cool, no particular wind. You can hear the insects and the birds are out, and so it's a good time locally. Otherwise, we're at war impasse day 5, depending on how you count, I suppose. And there doesn't appear to be a relief in sight. And there are some changeable things that with time, it strikes me, could be worse, although we hope not. So how would that run? Well, let's take a look at the positions. Hamas has, since its beginning, taken the position that death to the Israelis is their objective, which doesn't leave a lot of room for negotiating. The Israelis have fostered and stated a strong policy, but they haven't gone to that extreme position, although their actions and their words suggest that they're there. We have a situation now where the Hamas may have done, well, the worst they could by their surprise attack, but they continue to have hostages and they continue to have allies in the region. And we have massed Israeli troops along Gaza, a densely populated area with citizens, hostages, and Hamas soldiers. Others want to call them Hamas terrorists, fine, but I don't think that helps the discussion in any way. The United States had been trying to extricate itself from the area, but now it's taken a position very strongly, kind of a do-or-die position, standing beside Israel. I'm not contesting that makes sense given our political history, but there are nation states surrounding the area, Iran, Saudi Arabia, Lebanon, so forth, Egypt, that are predominantly Muslim, and we've taken the side of Israel. I am concerned that we, by our active and visible support, become an organizing influence for the other nation states in the region that consider themselves quietly or very actively enemies of Israel. These are just the tensions I sense. Foreign Affairs has an issue out now, and they talk about how we are in a situation in which the United States has been trying to extricate itself from the region. And not just with regard to Israel. We have the Iraq and Afghan withdrawals that we've tried. So what do we have? I think we won't know if we're containing and bringing the conflict to an end, depending on how Israel proceeds in Gaza. If Israel is perceived as bad as Hamas by how it responds, we run the risk of others getting interested, which is a weak word to describe a range of possibilities from protest to warlike alliance. Now, there has been some firing in northern Israel from Hezbollah in Lebanon, and that seems to have been quieted. Now, if what happens in Gaza becomes so onerous and so maddening, as has been the case of some of the atrocities of Hamas, will Hezbollah come in more forcefully, and will other nation states in the area do the same? Now, why would this be such a tinderbox? Well, the United States first tried to get some notion of settlement in the region with Iran. Trump, it's interesting. Trump messed that up completely. And we've been continuously and perhaps rightly suspicious about everything Iran has done since. There's been an effort to bring Saudi Arabia into an agreement that would make it unnecessary to rely on Russia. And so maybe that would weaken the conflict in the area. But I think it's fair to say that right now all bets are off. Can anybody say what's going to happen? No, but they can talk about, in the chess-like manner, of the possible moves ahead of us, really depending upon what Netanyahu does, now that he seems to have the government behind him. I don't know how tentative that is, but it's a very conservative government. So, if we go wrong in how we, the Israelis, respond, we could light a keg, an explosion that could be heard around the world. Not immediately, but you get into these things gradually, and then you wonder how it ever happened. And this is the way it happens. What are we going to do? Now, this is further compounded by our own Congress, in the sense that our Congress is not in session, because we don't have a speaker. And the Republicans had a vote, and Scalise won the vote, but No Jacket Jordan didn't agree to be bound by the vote. And so we have a guy, well, why should I single him out? They're all crackers. The problem is, these guys, even when they vote, they can't make a decision. And they were going to go to the floor with a vote to choose a speaker, but they haven't done that. And so the body that might be required to dedicate the American treasure and men and women, well, that bill ain't going to pass, because the House can't act. And the transfer of funds that are available may not be enough. So the world sees perhaps a fortuitous pause if the inability to fund Israel or to support them fully chills the extreme measures that Netanyahu might take. Of course, the opposite is also possible, which is that if there aren't the funds and Netanyahu goes full bore because he doesn't need America, then we're running the table, and we don't know what can happen. It is amazing how ignorant and arrogant men, mostly, and women, who have the force of power to dominate, to kill, to hurt, to isolate, to cabin off until they're so weak, to teach them a lesson. And to think that that happens without recriminations, without difficulty. That's a lot to expect. So, there's not much one can say about the looming possibility of a more intense and damaging war, with the possibility of others joining in creating even more unpredictable possibilities of a multidimensional play of violence across the seed of civilization. It's amazing, but that's where we are. So, if somebody's asking you about how much you hate this or that or the other one, tell them you think it's a plague on both houses that people who are adults, have existed so long, can't get their act together and avoid killing people. Because in the end, if there is a pause or an agreement, these people will have died in vain. They never had to die. People didn't have to scream the pain they feel at the losses they have. So, sorry this is not happy. By the way, I may not be on the trail tomorrow because I'm supposed to have an operation. It's like a tear in my stomach wall. It's a hernia, that's what it is. So they're going to put a mesh in there, and one doctor said I'll be kicking field goals by Friday. I think that's an exaggeration. I think he said that to me so that I would be amused. But they don't tell you how long it might be, but they do tell me that they like me walking. Maybe not as fast, not as long, we'll see. I don't want to do 2 operations, so I'll listen to these guys. And in the meantime, I say bye-bye from our cathedral of trees where there is peace. And there's a nice feeling. And I'm sure there's a place near you just like this, so go there. That's what's more important in life than killing each other. Bye-bye.